Denise, I feel special. I see more of you than we do at the staff meeting.
No way.
Hi, Dana.
Oh, am I late?
No, we're just slowly arriving. How's everybody doing today?
Good.
Judy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Is it coming over?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Okay. I
Well, right now, guys, as we're for you, those of you on right now, once we get started with this, I'm going to mute everybody. So we're supposed to have about 30 people on this that have signed up. So we will, I'm going to mute everybody, we will just use the chat box off to the side. If you drag down across your screen down there, chat, if you have a question, we'll get to those as soon as possible. But in order to keep this thing moving and gotta try to be as efficient as possible and cover as much as we can, we're going to, once we get started here, we'll probably give everybody at about 5 after. I know there was a little confusion. Separate passwords if you use the password, but once we get that going here in a few minutes, we'll go ahead and mute everybody. It's my oldest daughter, Molly, that likes, now that we use Zoom, she likes to introduce herself to everybody.
Holly.
Hey.
Hello.
I'm talking. So then Maggie, my middle child.
Hi, Maggie.
Hi, Maggie.
Hi.
Dana, she's still upset about the Matt Carpenter thing.
Yeah.
She hasn't forgot.
I don't like you.
She loves me.
This is my first Zoom, so I don't know quite all the techniques.
Well, we'll try to help you. We'll help you along the best we can, Judy. How about
If
that?
I'm ignorant, it's self-inflicted because I just don't keep up with all this. I'm sorry, but I'll do my best.
Hey, don't worry, Judy. I'm kind of in the same boat. This is my first Zoom training. How about that?
Oh, gosh, okay. Jim was going to be here, but unfortunately, he's still out there cutting grass. So if the sun is shining, he's outside.
Understood.
I'm sorry.
For those of you guys that just got on, we're kind of opening up the airwaves, so to speak, right now. But like I said, the first group on here, when we get ready to start the muting, when we get ready to start the meeting, I'm going to go ahead and mute all of you all. If you look down on the bottom of your screen, there's a chat option. That's where you can put your questions, and we will get to those as soon as possible. But to limit everybody from talking all over each other, because we do have about 30 people signed up. If everybody shows up on here, we'll mute everybody. We'll use the chat option, and you can ask your questions, and we will try to answer them before to a different part of a new section on the agenda. So that's kind of how we'll do it tonight. Like I said, thank you guys for being on here. You guys are the test dummies, so to speak, because we've never done these before, never done it like this, and we've heard a lot from you coaches and heard that this is something you guys want to give a shot. So I hope we find this beneficial. And like I said, we're going to try to be as efficient as possible and get you guys out of here in a fair amount of time.
Can I ask one question before we get started?
You sure can.
Are you sending another coaches packet or softball rules different from the ones that came in our coaches packet?
I don't know when you received your coach's packet.
I got it from Jess. I don't know the date that I printed all of it, but I know in your email it said you would be sending softball rules, and I haven't received. I didn't get the agenda or different rules, but the coach's packet, is only a 3-page softball rules.
Okay. Yeah, we'll go over that, Judy. So, I don't know. Somebody just muted. All right, Judy, we'll go over everything. Somehow, I got somebody else, I guess, logged in with the master account and muted me at that point.
I didn't mean to mute you. I was trying to mute everybody else. Sorry, Tim.
Yeah, I'll open them up until we got started. Guys, we're going to give everybody a few minutes to probably give it to about 6:05 to get started. For those of you all that I've gotten a couple of emails about the password changing. So if people tried to log in using the original email password, it's not going to work because we did some updating and additions to the calendar, which changed the password unbeknownst to us. So we'll give everybody to about 6:05 and then we'll go ahead and get started. Dana, when we get started, you can unmute because I'll allow you to speak too, since you're
Okay.
practicing with me.
I'm unmuted. Tim, the only thing I don't have is individual skills. Each one if we need to talk about them. I just don't have individual skills papers.
It's in that that set of rules.
Okay, I just don't have it with me. But everything else I think I have.
Okay, guys, we're pretty close to what would be our number here, so I'm going to go ahead and we'll go over one more time. Right now, you're going to get all muted. We're going to mute all of y'all except for Dana and I and get started with the meeting. What we will do is, again, if you have a question, we ask that you please use the chat option off to the side here. Type it in, and we will get to it. We'll go through after each points in the agenda, try to go over them, and just kind of get your questions there. And if we miss one and move on, we'll come back to it and answer your questions as timely and best we can right now. So to get started, for those of you who don't know, and I don't know everybody on here, first thing I want to say is, well, I'm Tim Schuster, I'm Director of Sports and Training. Welcome to my humble abode. My Corona, it's actually my wife got the office. I get the kitchen table. So I'm borrowing my wife's office in the house today. I just want to say thank you all for taking your time to be with us tonight, to go over this, to give this virtual training a shot. Also want to thank you guys for everything that you do for your athletes, and hopefully we will all get back to normal here before too long. That's the goal. So obviously we're kind of in some interesting times. I hope everybody saw the announcement about the altering of summer games, which moves us on to outdoor games, and one of the competitions being softball. So what we're going to do tonight is we're just going to basically go over some rules. I already see a typo I made, so I'm going to apologize for that. We'll go over the assessments, rules, skills and rating, and hopefully offer you some just some tuning, the training and stuff that you and your athletes can be working on while we're all quarantined at home, and just some different drills and stuff that they can come out in regards to into softball. So the assessment process is where we're going to start. It's always a big, it's one of the big things we have going through, and I'm going to thank our softball sports commissioner, Dana Griesinger, for being on to kind of talk about assessments and different things going on. She and I have been working on this for a while. So Dana, if you want to talk about the assessment process, how to work through, working with your athletes and really trying to be as, to give them as close to judge their skills as close as possible. So Dana, I'm gonna let you go.
Yeah, we used to have assessments where we actually recorded how far they could throw and all that, and it just didn't seem to work. So they came up with the assessment sheet. I don't know if you guys can see that or if you have it in front of you, but it basically, you assess each individual player on their hitting, fielding, base running, and catching, and the overall rating. And it's pretty basic. Like for hitting, it's athlete cannot hit a pitch ball, would give them 0. Athlete needs direction on proper stance, grip, and place to stand is 1. I'm not gonna go through all these, but it goes step by step. The way I've always done this is I have 3 or 4 practices first to get to know the student or athlete, or if you had them the years before, but really look at what these are saying, because some of them can kind of go both. It could be a 4.5 sometimes. And what I do is I have other coaches that practice with us, and we get together and talk about them. For example, athlete occasionally makes contact but is not familiar with what is a strike pitch. Athlete regularly makes contact but does not hit the ball out of the infield. So sometimes it jumps. I always think of a 6 or above or 7 or above as like a high school athlete playing at a varsity level. That's how I look at it. And then anything below that would be your recreation or lower. Do you want me to go through each one of them, Tim, or?
No, I think now, I think now would be, does anyone have any questions as far as the assessment goes? I'm, slowly learning all of the coaches, but from what I could see, a lot of you guys, I think, have been around for a while and understand the assessment process. But if there is any kind of questions you have in scoring them, some suggestions or questions you have for Dana of ways of doing things, what might work, she's giving you some ideas. If we don't have any problems with the any questions or anything with the assessments, I think we can move on to the rules side of it.
Yes, we use the same rating for T-ball. We use the same rating for everybody.
How do we, you want me to read them? I'll read them and you can help answer them, and then I'll do it there. Okay. How do we prevent coaches from sandbagging ratings? And I'm going to take this over for Dana. The quick answer is, guys, you can't prevent a coach from sandbagging. I always tell somebody, if you feel that strongly that you need to sandbag and it's winning's that important in Special Olympics, you need to sandbag to make your team a dominant team, more power to you. I hope you sleep well at night. But the best thing I can do is, and I can tell you, I really started doing this the last couple of years. The best thing I can do is, despite what I do, is I'll sit and look at your scores from area and regional, and I will tell you, we're not going to mention specific teams or specific coaches, but I can tell you, for example, last year, I took 3 teams that between area and regional were beating people by 15 and 20 runs, and their Q scores, which is one of our bases, which we'll get into later with the divisioning side of it, their Q scores weren't even close, and I threw them all together. And figured if they wanted to run rule a bunch of people and run some people up, they could do it against each other. So, the quicker answer is, can you prevent it from happening? No. The things we can do at state or at the regional and state level that we can do is look at teams, look at how bad, how they stack up with the competition. And like I said, we just do our best to, if somebody wants to go out there and continually score a ton of runs on people and beat them badly, we will move them up despite what their Q score is. So that's really kind of the best answer I can give you with the sandbagging thing.
Would it help if like they get a new player or something that they write that this is a new player on our team?
By new player, do you mean like a?
Like if they have a team that has been playing together for 10 years and 2 players leave and they get 2 new players, is it nice for you to know that?
Yeah, I mean, any information. Remember, guys, because we're in Jeff City or we're a different. I don't see your teams at until we get to the regional level, and until then, we don't really have the ability to walk around and observe every team playing. So some people are going to have good days, some people are going to have bad days. So any additional information you can put on there would help us when it comes to the scoring and trying to keep a competitive balance. So we appreciate anything with that. Let's see. I've got a question about any rule changes for regulation softball. We'll get to that, Brian. Robert is asking, making their scores artificially low to make them more apt to win. Guys, it's there. It happens. I'm not going to deny that it doesn't happen. Again, like I was saying, I don't know if the person asking this question asked it to be a private, so we'll do whoever asks this privately. I don't know. Yeah, it happens. We'll do our best based on how they perform at other levels to bump them up or anything like that. Let's see. Do you look at the overall rating of the team? Do you total by the number on for example, 8 players, or do you? Well, Schaefer, you're going to total up the number of scores divided by the number of players on the roster to get the final Q score. Her question was, I'm assuming, I don't understand your question, Susan. We'll come back. Schaefer, we'll come back to your question later on. So is there anything else on the, before we move on, have we covered the ratings process, the assessment process?
Yeah, Schaefer just replied, if you only have 8 players, you would divide by 8 to get your score. If you have 9 players, you divide by 9.
Okay, yeah.
That's what she's asking.
Okay.
Tim, I think there's a good time though to talk about the level.
Okay.
Or like age differences, since we're talking about ratings.
Okay. Well then, for those of you that following along on the gender, well then we're going to skip because this does kind of go together. And again, I apologize if we bounce across the agenda. This is the first one we put together. So, bear with us, have a little patience. When we're talking levels, we understand that, you understand you have your juniors, which are ages 15 and under, senior age 16 to 21, masters 22 and over, and senior masters 40 and over. Again, another thing that's highly critical with this divisioning and trying to keep you guys together, grouped up as well together is with the age groups. And we're seeing a lot more from groups putting mixed ages, different age groups, say from 15 to 40-year-olds together on a roster. And I know that in some of you have to do that to fill out your rosters, but it becomes really problematic from our standpoint of, if you've got an 8-year-old, if you've got a 10, 11, or 12-year-old playing softball and you put a 23-year-old unified partner out there, they're considered in the master's age because it was based off the oldest person's age on your team. Therefore, if you put them together, if you put an 8-year-old on a team or 10-year-old, any of your junior level kids, and put a couple of unified partners that are 23, 24, 25, they're going to be in that master's age, master's level group. It's kind of become an issue for us in keeping teams brackets balanced and keeping the competitive side of it together. I can tell you, those of you all that have questioned why you end up playing the same teams a lot, is if you're mixing your rosters that much all over the map with your age groups, I'm trying to keep you all together with such a safety factor into the softball side of things. I mean, there's a big difference between, you know, putting a 10-year-old on the infield and having a 30 or 40-year-old man hitting it out there because they're playing at the field at the same time. So I realize that, you know, some of you guys don't have big agencies and you're doing your best, but keep those age separations, you know, when you're putting your teams together, keep that in mind. Also, you know, when you look and you're playing if you end up playing a lot of the same teams between area there, you know, if it's not just your score, there's a big chance that your roster has something to do with that. You know, we're trying to keep them from a safety standpoint, keep the grown-ups and the younger kids off together. But again, those of you all with smaller agencies, I do understand your trials and tribulations of trying to put a softball team together, which is in letting everybody play, which is why we're here. So, you know, it's a balance between, you know, just the ages and the ability levels. But again, keep all of those factors in mind when you're putting your teams together, when your rosters are together, about what's going into what division you end up in. Is that what you were talking about, Dana?
Yes, my dog started barking. I had to put you on mute for a minute. Or me on mute. But yeah, that and try to keep the abilities pretty close to the same on the team. Also was what I was thinking, as much as possible.
All right. We have okay, so now we got a question about this. Have exactly one player that's over 40 and the rest of the team is 17 to 25. So do we fall in senior master because of that one players? Yes, you do with the senior master level, Suzanne. So again, that's one of those, you know, we'll look and see. I don't get as concerned with mixing 17 to 25-year-olds, Suzanne, because they are a little older. It's just that here in the last couple of years, I've seen, like I said, use the example, and it's a lot of times it happens in unified, vice versa in both ways, is you end up with a team of 10 to 15-year-olds that has two unified partners that are 22, 23. So that puts them up in that master's level category. But the reverse, you know, you end up with, you know, you still have the, you know, when they put them with the senior masters and things like that. So I don't get as concerned about it because technically by SOMO rules, you can play up an age level. And I feel like a senior and a master can be on the same field, so to speak, from, you know, if they're in the same abilities with the senior masters, as opposed to, I really get concerned more, Suzanne, about the junior side. All right, anything else? All right, here we go. From high to low. Okay, Brenda said, our ability level is diverse from high to low, but have few players, so all levels must play together. More are in the senior level now. Again, yeah, I mean, we understand the mix and match, Brenda, of the abilities. You know, again, we just wanted to point out sometimes when you put the rosters together with the multiple ages, that you end up playing the same people over and over again. And a lot of that has more so to do with your roster than rather than we're just like, put you guys together because you're close in ability. We try to mix the games up as much as possible, but you know, we'll do our best with keeping you guys together like that. Schaefer just pointed out, and again, thank you, Schaefer, for pointing this out. We do have a waiver. If you have, you do have a waiver if you have a junior level player playing more than one level up. So if you have a junior level, a 15 and under child playing on a master's team, which is 22 and over, you do need to have them sign a waiver. You can get those waivers from your area program staff. They can send those out as well. Connie has asked, is it possible to have coach pitch unified? Connie, the only level of coach pitch unified that is available would be at a junior level. That's the only thing in our rules that we would do with a unified coach pitch, is if it was a junior level. And I can tell you currently we don't have another one in the state. So if one of you guys want to put them together, great. But we don't have a lot of unified, well, we don't have any junior level unified coach pitch teams in the state.
Well, and this might be time too, we have a lot of coach pitch teams, and a lot of the teams are able to move up to regulation, except for they say that they don't have a pitcher. So we're really trying to figure out ways that we can help you to train your athletes to be pitchers. Because if that's the only reason, we need to work with that.
So yeah, we're trying to figure out ways to come out and help increase the pitching, because sort of like with modified basketball and regulation basketball, we had to lower the qualifying score number to kind of create a competitive balance. But we've got a lot of, Dana's right, we've got a lot of coach pitch teams that right now are hanging out without a pitcher. So we're looking into ways to do some pitching and to get you guys trained on having a pitcher. And don't be afraid to put somebody out there and you know, let them learn as well. I mean, it's way better than just stockpiling a team down at coach pitch. Remember, we're trying to increase the athlete's ability and push them to do better at the same time. All right. Any more things from assessments and divisioning? Are there any more questions I can answer before we move on to the rule side of things? I believe if everyone just knows, Connie mentioned, Connie, are you saying that you'd be interested in training pitchers on your team, learning how that is? Is that what or you're offering it? Okay, thank you.
Connie, I can talk to you later. I should.
All right, so we're going to move on to the rules side of things, and I do apologize if you've gotten your stuff like Judy was asking about earlier. Guys, one of the biggest things that we heard loud and clear from you guys is, especially you coaches have been around a long time, is we have 3 sets of softball rules that we've been following, and it's remembering the order of that SOMO rules are the most take precedent, then it's SOI rules, and then it ran down to ASA rules. Highly confusing, but back when all of this was put into place many moons ago, we made some adaptations that we thought enhanced and balanced the competition side of softball. Well, the long and short of that is, as time's gone on, I like to say we were ahead of the curve, and Special Olympics International has caught up with us. So while we're patting ourselves on the back a little bit, but no, that's truly what's happened. We've seen a lot of the rules come together and a lot of the same things. So in an effort to not confusing and make it as user-friendly as possible, we have decided to play this year with the SOI rules, which should have been in the email that I sent you with your invitation to the meeting. I think it came in a separate email, but this is not to put anybody into panic. This is not to put anybody into, there's major changes. The reality is, guys, you've been playing by these same rules for many years. They've all just kind of come together. What we've tried to do is condense the vehicle down for you when you're referencing rules that you don't have to keep referring to. So we've kind of got it down to one set of rules, the SOI rules that I included, and as well as the coach pitch rules, because they don't have specific rules. So long story short is we kept the SOMO coach pitch rules, and we'll play the rest of the levels by the Special Olympics Center, the SOI rules that you should have received in a separate email from your meeting invite. along those, Dana has done a phenomenal job of going through, trying to point some things out for you guys. Like I said, there's subtle differences. There's nothing major. This isn't going to affect your gameplay from the way you've been playing for the most part for many years. So, Dana, if there's some things you want to go over, point out, that'd be great.
Yeah, I don't remember all the issues from last year, so if you had a specific issue or question last year, please chat. Please mention that so we can go over it. But just a couple things that we have not done in the past is a tiebreaker, and sometimes we do end up with a tie. How it is in the SOI rule is that you start the extra inning with a tie with the batter from last inning. The last batter of the last inning starts on second base. And it's still a regular inning, just the batter from last inning, the last out, I should say, starts on second base for both teams. That's one.
Hey, Dana, I'm going to stop you, man. Brian, are you asking why the batter would say that you start with the runner on second base? Here, hang on a minute. There you go, bud. Well, I'm trying to unmute. There you go. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I was just wondering why, if it's the team is tied for the next inning, why put a person on second base? Because what happens if the other team scores, one doesn't score, the other team does, or vice versa? Why don't you just start us off as a regular inning?
Right. Yeah,
Oh.
go ahead, Dana.
Whoever gets the run.
Yeah, what happens though, a lot of times nobody scores and the game keeps going and going. So that's the concept of putting somebody on second, is to get the game moving.
It's basically called, Brian, like an international. It's an international rule that was adopted by softball, and it's a speed up rule. It's quite honestly, like in our state tournaments, Brian, we're stacked games every hour, and we try to bring the number of teams we can by the number of games, and we have a certain time frame to do it all in. It really, honestly, it's an international speed up rule.
So that goes for both for regulated and unregulated teams?
Yeah, it goes for regulation and unified teams both, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, and then the most issues last year were unified and regulation questions. And well, unified, the batting order shall alternate between athletes and partners. If a player under the shorthanded rule and the team has dropped a partner, an out must be taken when the lineup reaches that partner's place in the batting order. So that was a question last year we had a controversy on. So we're going to go with that rule. Also, if the partner gets walked, the partner takes second base. If it's, now I lost it. What was it? There's so many outs. If it's 2 outs, the athlete has a choice of hitting or taking the walk. I think it was 2 outs. Do you see that, Tim, anywhere?
Where were you at? I'm sorry.
I had it. Can I come back to that one?
Okay.
Let me find it, because I read it today. But basically, if a partner walks, they take second base. That's how it works. Because we had that question before, too. And for unified, they can start with 10 or 12 players. So you have 2 extra person, not 1. Those were the big things. But I think some of us have done that. Are there questions?
All right, here we go. The question is, if you have 8 players, how do you take the outs in the lineup?
If it's unified, you have to start with 9.
Okay, so if you have a unified team,
and they have one out.
So we will not start a game with 8 players.
Right.
Okay.
Short-handed rule. A game may begin or finish with one less than required to start with an automatic out, taking the sport of a short-handed player. The vacant position must be listed in the batting order, but at the end.
Okay.
Unified. If a team plays short-handed with either 3 in the infield or outfield, or at least 2 of the 3 must be athletes, and at least 1 of the 3 be a partner. Because you have to do 2 athletes infield, 2 athletes outfield. Doesn't say anything about staggered. You just have to have 2 athletes, 2 regular, or 2 volunteer unified outfield and infield. And a pitcher, catcher, 1 has to be athlete, 1 has to be unified.
All right. So basically, what we're saying, guys, is you're going to have to start the games with 9.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to start the game with 9 players. And then what did you say about the outs in the lineup?
It's at the bottom. So if
Okay.
you have a vacant player, that's the last batter.
But if you start with 9, that's still a regulation, right?
Regulation, yes.
Okay.
Unified, you would have an out for the 10th.
All right. Tammy has asked us, did I say 12 on the roster? No, actually, we can have up to 15 on a roster, Tammy. She was saying you could put 12 if you in your lineup if you wanted to play with 2 extra players. So you can walk in non-regulation / unified teams. Brian, are you referring to like a coach pitch situation? Because you can't walk in coach pitch. It's only 5 pitches. That hasn't changed. Got it? All right. Pitcher, Dana, does the pitcher catcher combo figure into the 2 athletes in the infield?
No. No, it's first, second, short, and third.
All right, Schaefer, you're asking, is that only with unified on the 9 players that you must start with? If you have 8, it is a forfeit.
And unified, yes.
And unified it is, so in unified softball, everybody, slight changes. You got to play with 9. You got to start with 9. You can't go less than 9. All right. So I would encourage everybody to look over those rules we sent out. Dana, you want to explain the extra player rule? We've been asked to explain the extra player rule.
Okay. For T-ball and coach pitch, basically you can bat your whole team if you want, the whole roster, and then just sub people in and out as you please. For regulation, you're allowed to bat what's called an extra player. So you bat your 10 players, and then you have a choice to bat 1 extra if you want. And that player does not play the field. And they can switch and play the field, switch off with other players, but that 11 stays on the lineup at all times. And then it's kind of hard to explain, but if you have 11 and then you want to substitute 1 in, they substitute into that position on the batting order. Is that the best way to explain it, Tim?
Yeah, I believe so.
So for unified, because you got to hit staggered, unified athlete, that's why they say 2 extra players, because you need an athlete as an extra player and a unified partner as an extra player. So that's why they say 12. Okay?
All right. Let's see. So is there any more questions on that? Again, I would read the rule, guys, go over the rules and take a look at them. Feel free. You guys all should have my email address now. Feel free to bounce questions you think of or find at a later date after this, and I'll be happy to answer them for you. The next few things, looking at the agenda here, just to touch base quickly on, moving on here. Equipment, everything has to be a softball approved bat. We use the yellow softballs. Catchers got to play with catcher's masks. Everybody's got to wear a helmet. Uniforms got to have numbers on the at least 6 inches high on the back of all uniform shirts. Recommend softball pants as opposed to shorts. A little less skin out there, but you can play in those athletic shorts as well. I get it. People are hot. So I think that's all pretty self-explanatory, as well as the safety and prevention of injuries, which kind of leads us into our next one with the training and competition side of things. With all of our sports, we recommend an 8-week training program. Again, it's recommendation. Understand everybody's got the challenges of finding time and when to get all together, as far as that goes. Everybody must compete in the area tournament in order to advance to regional. You must compete in the regional tournament to advance to state to national, and national to world games if that's so far how you desire. So yeah, that's real quick. So we'll back up. We'll ask a couple of questions here. The question, I've got a question about on a coach pitch, a 5-pitch no walk. Is a foul tip on third strike, isn't an out? Yes, it's an out. You get 5 pitches. Whether you swing foul ball on the 5th pitch, it's when it comes to coach pitch, it's more the number of pitches. So 5 pitches, and if you don't put it in play, in fair play, and within 5 pitches, you are out. We've asked no cleats of any sort, correct? It's no metal cleats, Brian. Cleats are allowable, but just not metal cleats. We'd also recommend, especially unless you're doing a fine job teaching your athletes how to slide, the much harder plastic cleats. If you could avoid those, that might help some of those situations. Dana, do you have anything to add to that?
No. The main thing with the catcher's mask too, there's always a question, do they have to have the throat protector on it? It does not say anything about it. Because that's been a question. And the straps of the helmet, you don't have to have, that's recommended.
Yeah, all of these are just extra recommendations to keep everything. All right, we've got another question that says you have 15 on the roster. Do you bat all 15 an inning, or are you still going with the 10 batters an inning? Yes, we will keep the 10 batters or 3 outs in there. You'll notice that it was at the top of the coach pitch rules, but notice I titled that for all of them because we did keep that because, again, we wanted to try to eliminate big innings and people being able to run up the score and things like that. So every inning will still consist of 10 batters or 3 outs, whichever one comes first, just like we've played in the past. All right. So that kind of gets us down to training and technical development. Technical development there. Guys, we've been lucky enough to get in contact with Coach Pete Pachorik at Principia in the St. Louis area. And he is a college coach and has been doing a lot of, since they've lost their season as well, they've been doing some training to keep their players there. Pete's a friend of the program and offered us the opportunity for all of you all to subscribe to his YouTube channel. Yeah, the link's there on the agenda. I highly recommend going there. He's got about 26, 27 drills for his own players to use. Granted, they're baseball, very applicable to what we're doing with all levels in the softball side of things. I get on there, subscribe to his channel. I think he's posting one about every other day or sometimes one, at least once a day. Some different drills and stuff for his players to do in the off season and while they were waiting around to play until they shut the door on that. So I would encourage you guys to take a look at those. Get those out to your athletes. Get them busy doing some things. Because like I said, fingers crossed, we're gonna hop right into softball season in July and August, and be ready to go from there. I've got another question. How close can a pitcher come into pitch and coach pitch? We're gonna back up and go to coach pitch. Guys, we encourage the coach pitching to start at the rubber, the closest you can come in. And we've got, some of you will notice we started at the regional level, and hopefully they start this at the area level as well. But we've put a line across there. 18 feet is the closest you can come into pitch and coach pitch. You cannot be any closer to home plate than 18 feet. We've added a line into our field marking crews. Sometimes they get them, sometimes they don't. I know we've definitely had them at the last two regionals and state. We've had the mark in place, but no closer than 18 feet to pitch into coach pitch. And also while we're all on here together, if you guys have some different forums that you use as well that other coaches might be interested in, again, you can use a reply all now that we've all kind of got a group going here with softball coaches. Feel free to share those via email, or if you have anything up here. We also have, Dana's got a great individual skills. If you have some individual skills athlete, she's got a great individual skills thing with our, on our website, the somo.org website. So, check those out, as well as Coach Pachorik's drills. They were there. Question now that I've got is, you cannot wear open toe shoes on the field. Is that correct? Yes, that is correct. Only I'm allowed to wear flip-flops on the field, Schaefer.
And me.
Oh, and Dana. Dana and I. The commissioner and I are the only two that are allowed to wear flip-flops on the field. All right. Yeah, most people wouldn't either, Brian. Let's talk about sportsmanship and social media. So this is kind of the last thing we want to touch base on. Guys, I'm a big fan of competition, and I think it is perfectly fine to have teams out there that, man, you just can't wait to beat. And I love to see competition. I love to see good games. I love to see people competitive and getting after each other, playing good, hard games. Where it gets a little touchy is when you cross the line and a lot of the bad blood goes across. So I'm going to encourage you all to promote good sportsmanship. It's all right to have rivals. I think that makes it fun. I mean, where would the Chiefs be without the Raiders? So it's always good to have some rivals out there. But again, I would encourage all of you to remember who's watching and what your on-field, the attitude you're displaying on the field. That's going to go through your team, through your coaches, through your players, and that will lead to some of the bad sportsmanship we've seen here in the kind of taken over. To combat some of that, one of the things I'll let you know as coaches, the athletes went to their athlete rep on the board, basically with a letter kind of that's been coming out of these athlete input councils about the coaches' behavior and the sportsmanship between athletes and coaches. So this isn't just something that I'm pointing out to you. This is something your athletes have gone to our board with and wanted to see. So again, I'm going to encourage you guys to, be responsible. Remember, when you're on the field, it's okay to take to have your rivals to take it there, but don't let it get out of hand. So with that, we've come up with the Game Changer Initiative. So at each one of our state and regional competitions, we'll be looking for athletes and coaches that are promoting good sportsmanship, doing the things, doing it right, keeping the competition, if they clearly outclass a team, not running up the score. And then we're recognizing them with an award either at the state event or at the end of the event. We're still kind of hashing out the details on that. So again, guys, you're going to hear me. You would have heard me if we'd have had more state competitions, really hammering this sportsmanship thing home and how important it is. Because it's not just, I'm not the one recognizing it, it's your athletes that are recognizing it as well. And then taking upon themselves to mention these input councils and take it up the chain of command with like the boards and everything. So please have fun out there, play hard. It's okay to have a few rivals. It's okay not to get along all the time, but remember to keep it under control. And the last thing I'm going to touch base on in this, guys, is your social media. I am not going to be the one to tell you that you cannot post things on your social media. I am not going to police your social media. The only way it becomes into my hands, though, is things when you post it on the Special Olympics social media side of things. So be mindful of that. Remember, if you have athletes, parents, coaches, other people from other parts of the state, if you are friends with them, I remind you that when you put it out there, it is something for everyone to see. I'll give you an example. I left a regional tournament this year, and a coach had posted on hers, which is why I didn't make it a big deal, but just how quickly I'm not even halfway home and received a phone call about a coach posting, "Winners, congratulations, see you at state, losers, keep practicing." Not the word, done in poor taste, but put it out there on social media. And before you know it, it didn't take long for it to fire through and find a way back to me. I'm not going to police your social media, guys. But just remember, that's your freedom of speech. But just remember that it's out there when you put it out there. Anything that you put like that is going to find its way back to some people, and some people, then it gets to us, and then we'll work with the from a code of conduct standpoint. But like I said, that's an example. I wasn't even an hour in my drive back from the regional tournament before I got my first phone call about that social media post. So, guys, I just want you guys to be mindful, especially if you have a bunch of athletes and other coaches and stuff that are friends. I'm not saying not to be with, but before you put all of that stuff out there for everybody to see, because some way, somehow we'll find it out and you'll save me a phone call. So at that point, I believe that we have covered the agenda through and through.
Can I add something?
You absolutely can. I'm sorry.
Okay, this goes back to the one question I did not know. It's about this is for unified sports. It says the ball is for a walk, the ball is dead, and any walk to a partner, intentionally or otherwise, will result in a 2-base award. So if the partner walks, he gets second. The next batter, an athlete will bat. Exception. With 2 outs, the athlete batter has the option to walk or bat. So I think that's different than what we've been doing. Any questions on that?
Okay, we got another question that's come across. Do you know if we need to have physicals with them at both practice and competition? Yes, they need to have a current physical before you start practice with them. If they don't, they cannot practice. Please make sure you have all your paperwork taken care of and get those physicals in as soon as possible. Now with some of this quarantine and stuff will be a good time if you need to, we're all, your program staff, myself as well, we're all still quarantined at home and trying to catch up on some things. So this would be a good time for you to take a look at your athletes' physicals and make sure that they're up to date and ready to roll. And remember, it's based on the date of the state competition. So if you have one that's with state outdoor games going the 24th through the 27th, if your athlete's physical expires even that 24, 25, 26, 27, somewhere in that neighborhood, you know, they're not going to be allowed to compete. That's the cutoff date. So you need to get those, you need to get their physicals up to date before the state competitions. We'll base it off that state date. And yeah, the area program staff, you can ask them. They'll be able to provide you with a list of your active athletes and with their current physicals. Is it okay? I've got a question. Is it okay to tell athletes they have to try out for softball that happens in our area? Yeah, that's, again, we at the state level don't get into agencies. We don't get into agency business, so to speak. If that's the way the agency wants to handle it, not how I would handle it, but you know, I'm not in the business of policing agencies and how they choose to do their business that way. All right, Dana, we would like to talk about the walks again in unified softball.
Okay. SOI rules. The ball, if it's a walk, the ball is dead, and any walk to a partner, intentional or otherwise, will result in a 2-base award. So if the partner walks, they get second base. The next batter and athlete will bat. Exception, with 2 outs, the athlete batter has the option to walk or bat.
So basically, you guys, what they're trying to do is protect against you pitching around the unified partner by granting them second base. That's
Right.
the premise of the rule is, you know, again, this is one of these things you guys asked about sandbagging. This is one of these things that I go back to. If you're, you know, if it's that important to you to pitch around the partner and walk a partner to get to an athlete, I hope you sleep well at night. But that's the spirit of the rule, so to speak, is they're looking to prevent that by immediately putting the partner on second base. Now, okay, we've got a question about how many unified players to a team. Again, Brian, with the unified thing, you've got 15 on the roster. However you want to split up, it's more about where they play in the field as opposed to how many unified partners they can have on the roster. I mean, perfect world, it's a 50-50 split. You can have 12 athletes and 2 unified partners if that's what you want to do. You got to have at least a minimum of 1 to be considered unified. Recommend 2 because if somebody gets hurt, then you can sorry, I misspoke about the unified partners. Okay, no more unified partners than athletes. My apologies.
Well, on the field.
On the field. Isn't that what I said?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there we go.
No. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah, we're good.
No, because if it happens that by chance 6 unified partners show up and 4 athletes, then you can only play 8 because you have to have the same number of athletes as partners. But the partner can sub in still, right?
Correct.
Right. That's why I said on the field.
Okay. All right, do we have any other questions? All right, well, I think we managed to cover this. Oh, wait. Yeah, we're kind of at the question and answer thing, so ask away. All right, Dana, we've got the question again back to the walk. What happens if an athlete walks on your fight softball? Does the partner walk as well?
No, the athlete just takes first.
It's just one, Jana, that determines the age. It's the oldest player on your roster determines the age division they go in. What are the plans if this social distancing thing continues through July is a question we've got. Waiting, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. You know, we're holding out hope that we're free in June, but obviously once we get closer to June and if it looks like we're not, we will start keep working on that schedule and see what we can do otherwise. One of the big issues that we're seeing as we're pushing, you know, as our things are getting canceled and pushed back, guys, from our standpoint, there's many other events getting canceled and pushed back as well. So, you know, we're kind of fighting with reschedule things, and facility space becomes an issue as to whether or not we could, if we go any further back. So to answer your question, what are through July, you know, we'll kind of a little closer to June, I think we'll worry about, we'll see about putting a plan in place to see what that looks like as far as that goes. Right now, we're just through with the altered summer games. This is as far ahead as we're going to work. All right, we've been asked on coach pitch, how many coaches can be in the outfield? Dana?
It's just one in the coach's circle in the outfield, isn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah, it's just, let me look.
I'll double check. How about that? Because even I.
The coach of the defensive team will be allowed to stand 10 feet behind second base to coach their team while they're on the field.
They can also stand on the outside the foul lines and foul territory on first base and third base.
So one on the field and then others off.
You can have up to 2 as long as they're in foul territory. All right, you've been asked, can we change the roster at any time? Changing the roster, you can make you can make 2 roster changes, excuse me, between regional and state. What you turn in when you turn in your state rosters at regional is what you turn in as your state rosters. You can make two roster changes there. How about this? We will go back and debate the senior master thing because it's been debated for many years. Here's what we'll do. I will clarify. Well, you're telling me it's on the roster thing now. I thought it wasn't. I apologize. So 80% of the roster. You know what? We will verify. How about this? We will verify the senior master roster thing. How about that? And we will send out a mass email to everybody by the end of the week because there's been multiple discussions about which way it goes. So that's what we will do. We will verify it. And I apologize for the confusion of the senior master thing. Any other questions? All right. Well, with that, we shall bid you all farewell. Thank you again for your time. Hope you found this valuable. Hope you found it useful, and I appreciate you guys hopping on with us, and have a great night. Thank you so much.
Thank you.